The thing is,
yo, shit, on my screen, so there's something to look at while we fucking talk about this. That shit is crazy. That shit sounds nuts.
Oh, nice job here. I like this. I was just looking at this page just now, just before we started, because I was setting up the panel, like the lettering for the panels with this. I love the lighting here. This is great.
Nice.
So is this the panel where like behind him is the guy spilling the soup or whatever, spilling his meal?
Yeah.
Right.
So
okay.
she be lit back here a lot.
I just looked at this page. Yeah. Fucking Batman.
Fucking Batman.
Fucking Yoda's got a fucking lightsaber.
The fuck was that? What the fuck was that? Fucking Yoda's got a lightsaber. Yo, there's not a lot of detail to work with in this lady's face. I don't know if I like did anything really.
Oh, can you make her like an old witch? Like an old witch with even a wart on her nose?
See what I did?
Yeah, you made her like a cute
Oh, but you see, I kind of went over your pencils with the shadow. You seen it?
No, it's actually perfect for my pencils. But now that I see it so close, I'm like, that's supposed to be this old woman. It's this haggard woman.
Yeah, she's
just
fucked
a good word.
She's fucked up.
That could still work for her.
It'll work. I'm not changing this shit. It's just gonna work. Like I was looking, I've been studying Jim Lee's fucking pencils, man. It's like.
Are you studying them so that you can get more depressed? Something to consider when you're painting digitally.
Yeah.
I think this is something kind of new. I would say this is something that if you don't realize this, this is something within the past 30 years, or however long we've had a stylist, is that, do you realize like someone like Jim Lee understands the page size to the point of like almost a science when he's making his line widths?
And no.
Okay, so
no.
this, are you saying yes or no?
Yes, I absolutely get it.
Okay, so you get that like when he's doing those line widths and in that pattern that you just described, it's because he understands the page size and the line that he's dealing with. There's certain people like there's certain people that even we follow on Instagram. There's certain like our own artwork does this sometimes, and this is what I want to try to fix when we're working on this comic here now. Which is that whole thing we've actually alluded to a few times before about when we were working on Sumeria. Let's say we would zoom in to a panel and you would paint tattoos on a girl in a panel and you would do her makeup and you would zoom out. You're like, oh my God, I was in here for 8 hours on this panel, when really that's only a quarter of the page, and like you lose a lot of that when you zoom out anyway, you know? So it's just something to consider about like, sometimes when you find yourself caught up in these details in the actual
page like this.
Say that again?
Like there's no zooming in, zooming out. He worked on the full page and he's just like, he's doing it at this size. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like that's why I'm saying that when you do go on your digital iPad, on your whatever stylus, whatever you're doing digitally, you can fall into a trap of putting too much detail in too small a space because of the fact that you could zoom in and create the similar size that you'd normally be working with, but really you're working at like, let's say 1200%. So you really have to be careful not to fall into that. It almost becomes a black hole of time because you could fall into putting so much detail in that no one will actually see at the actual page size. And when you are making those mistakes, say that again?
Like splash pages are to flex your art muscles, you know what I mean? This other artwork is kind of just,
you're getting the story across.
Yeah, it's a vehicle to get the story out there.
So you gotta, you just have to be aware when you're working digitally.
Like I'm not going in right here. Like an 87, done.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yo, real quick. Dobbs went from jeans to tights.
I know. I don't know what happened here. You talking about in my drawing here?
Yeah, what happened? He's supposed to have knee pads on. Do I just color them in?
His knee pads. Where's the previous page to this? I gotta find the previous page. I can fix it.
Shoulder pads and all that. What just happened? Did something just happen?
I think your iPad disappeared.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up, find and like dig out which or.
I talked about going digital. Like I could just like make a layer to overlay. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, it's looking wild. Yo, you didn't go with the idea that to break up the background?
Like I kind of thought that was gonna be in post.
Oh, I could do that in post.
I saw it as like these panel intersections that you can just do.
I'm overwhelmed by how much stuff he puts on the page and how interesting he makes every panel. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, damn, but that's just, his experience is second to none. Like, look at this one page. This is one page, bro. Look at all this action going on. That's not crazy?
It's great.
Look at this hand in the foreground, like just to make it like worm's eye view. It's
like as if we are there's different levels to this scene.
It's too much.
Different depths.
Yo, he's nuts. He's a nut. Now let me show you an example of what I was telling you about this. Like, I can't really call it scribble, but it's Jim Lee scribble. He said, "This guy's the greatest that ever did it, man."
Hero.
Like, who was better than him ever?
No, like you're preaching to the choir, because Jim Lee literally was everything to me. Basically, is everything to me. The only thing that's happened to me in my later years is like jealousy has creeped in more. So that's the only thing. Yeah, that's like the only thing that stops me from like having a tear in my eye when you say his name. It's just like an anger of like a little jealous anger.
You love this dude, right? Like I hate love him. Like, look at all of this detail, bro. Oh my god! And he's just sitting down and doing this while he's eating a hot dog. You know what I'm saying?
It's nothing to him.
It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Look at this city. That is sickly, man. This is booking just.
I mean, any of those feelings comes from just right now. That book's not going to make it worse. And like that book just will, enforce admiration. It's just like, it's mostly admiration, but I'm just saying there's like 3% jealousy in there. I didn't have when I was, 25. But it's just now that I'm trying to attain like some kind of like expertise, and then to see that, it just
I'm really learning a lot on how he broke up the stories and just how he kept it interesting with all the different views. It's wild. Yo, he's amazing, man. Like, this dude is so amazing that you never get tired of talking how amazing his work is. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's never old. It's never. I can't see how this stuff could look old in 50 years. I just don't see it. Like, if it goes straight to digital, like if all it becomes is just digital, then I could get it. But like,
right, I think he has taken 2D artwork to the absolute maximum.
Yeah,
that you can as far as comic book art. there's no more dynamicism to gain as far as my feeble brain can foresee.
That is sick, man.
It looks like a time machine.
It's bugged out. And then the next page you see the front view. And I'm always impressed when you can see something from the back and the front and it makes sense. It's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it's like. And look how this thing works.
What is this thing?
It's just they have her in some like device where she's forced to look at some screen of just nonsense.
Oh, I thought it was a spaceship or something.
It's like a wild chair where she's strapped in.
I see.
Too much detail to the face. Like you see Superman's face that has really no detail.
Right.
But it works. But then when he has the room to put detail, he's a monster. Like when he gives someone like a splash page, like look at Harley Quinn's face on this whole page.
You can tell she's crazy.
Look at that face, man. Jesus. He's legit crazy. He's crazy. He's like Jesus. That's nuts. You know, like look at this page. Like this page is crazy. It's crazy. Nuts. Oh, and then somebody gets shot in the face. Where's that? Somebody gets shot in the head, and I'm like, I couldn't believe he drew it. I was like, what? Here we go. Look at this. There's like a flash. The muzzle flash is coming out the guy's eye sockets. Can you see this?
Wow.
Oh my lord. God, this hammer face dude. That's crazy. It's crazy.
Unwrapped.
It's called Unwrapped. I think it's just a DC thing. Yeah, it's a DC like initiative that they're just doing. It's cool. The cover, like David Lynch. Look at this guy. This is a page. What are you doing, David Lynch? Look at that arm, bro. Yeah, he's a different kind of animal, this guy. That is crazy. That is crazy. Buildings.
That's great.
That's nice.
That's great.
Yo,
oh yeah.
That is insanity.
Fucking Batman.
That's beautiful. I love the is that an old street light? Like a Gotham style street light on that one side? Oh, that's pretty cool.
I don't see
right? So I thought of a couple more details today about the planets out there.
Yeah.
You know how they land on the one planet that the circadian like super ship like lands on, or maybe it doesn't land, but it's like hovering above it. You know how they do it, and then they send like littler ships down with people or whatever. That was kind of a trick. Like the power of the people of Anhinga is like, you know how they're like technologically prowess, like they could do a lot with technology, just like inherently they understand it. What I think happened is like they kind of heard this signal coming, or like when human beings found their planet and kind of thought that like this is the place to actually settle, or this is like a place to gather some genetic material. This might be a good place because it suits these needs, like A, B, C, D, you know, whatever the needs are for like oxygen or whatever. But like those people of Anhinga, they're at war, kind of like, you know, every so often they're at war with like that other planetary body nearby. And those people are like, imagine like really advanced versions of like human beings with like all types of technology and like war machines.
So they're like Vulcans.
Like the other planet, right?
Yeah, the other planet.
Yeah, so like the Anhingans like always have to, in a way, outsmart them or utilize the technology against them. You know, the Anhingans are like even above them mentally and probably like technologically, but it's like more like internal. It's like the technology's like in their DNA and stuff like that. You know, like they're The technology is just different for them. So every so often they find themselves in a war with those other people, with that other planet. But that other planet is always busy, kind of being at war with itself. You know, they're awful. They're the worst. So when the Anhingans sensed the probe of whatever it was, a signal or just a telescope, like this is how sensitive they are. Like they knew that we were looking for a home or a planet or what have you, right there in their solar system, right there on their planet. Like they're like, okay, like these human beings are gonna come here, it seems like. Right? They knew that, so they sent the signal back in a way, or whatever made us believe here on the planet Earth, or where, you know, with the human being planet, that like to go to Chapinga, not to go to Anhinga, right? Like Anhinga bad, Chapinga good was like the signal they sent back, like not this planet, that planet.
Like leave us alone, go over there. Like go to the projects.
Yeah, like this one ain't good for your needs. Go to the one that is better for your needs over there, right? It's peaceful or whatever. Now, when we arrive, like human beings arrive there on the circadian super starship, I mean, it might have been 70 years later, right? In their time, or whatever it was. Maybe it was 17 years later in their time. Whatever, you know, weird things happen out in space with time. If you've seen Interstellar, just kind of all depends. And
yeah, that was crazy.
How long it took our ship to get there for the exploratory mission and all that. I don't know how long it was, but this is how they outsmarted us way ahead of time, is all I'm saying, right? So we get there with the circadian super starship to the other planet, not Anhinga. We get to the other planet and everything's great because of all our readings and all that, like line up and all that, right? We go down there and it's like Vietnam for us, but as if like Vietnam people were stacked to the tooth with like all the technology, like how they, you know how they weren't, but they still messed us up.
They landed on like Halo.
Yeah, like they landed on Halo. It's awful, and like they're in this middle of this huge situation now. It's kind of like they brought their own army. It's like, okay, they brought their own army. Yes, they brought their own army. So they send all these pods down there with their army, thinking that there's like this fighting chance, thinking that this is their only hope. This is why they came out here, you know, and they brought all this military anyway. These guys are like hungry for a fight anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, what they do. Yeah. It's just what they do.
This is what they do. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's so like if a third of the ship is like military people, you know, they're hungry for this fight. They're ready to do it. They're ready to get it on. They start fighting. They don't really know that it turns into like a Vietnam, but worse for them, right? Dang. So they end up, maybe they even take damage to the superstar ship. I'm not sure, but they end up, whatever like officials are on the ship and the rest of the people are like, we got to get out of here. They leave with whatever they can leave with. I'm not sure how that goes with, but they can't like just come back to home planet at that point. They're way out interstellar space. They're like way in another solar system. Something's wrong with their ship. They just lost a third of the people. The military is like wiped out. Maybe like Bomag was like knocked out. You know, he wouldn't like flee. Something happened. Like he got knocked out. I don't know what happened. Like he got knocked out. They picked him up. I don't know what happened there, but he ends up back on this ship. They go to Anhinga because they can't fly anywhere else. Like Anhinga's in that solar system. Like, well, the readings say this planet's like off limits. It's bad, but we got no choice. We got to go there.
Yeah, we got to crash land.
Like they get there, find out excellent conditions. It's awesome there. You know, everything else. It's like pretty good there. Like it's deadly. There's deadly things about it. You know, it's like Pandora over there with like Avatar, where it's like there's deadly things about it, but it's like it's not like the place they just came from, which was like awful. Like they were all getting killed. So it's like this place, they can maybe work with it. Maybe someday something could become from this. They gather samples from there as well. Like just like they gathered samples from the previous place, you know, as they were doing all that fighting and escaping and whatever else. So my idea for this whole situation is when they do like the communique from the ship then back to Earth, like how I see it going down is, you know, there's a spin, Kev, you know there's a spin. So what happens is these like government officials or whatever, however you want to call them, on the ship, that whoever's remaining in charge, it's like no longer like military advised, like those people maybe are like overtaken by like maybe weaselly, more like politician type people on the ship. And those people just, you know, because maybe they're like, listen, your military thing did not work. Like on the last place we were at, like it just, no. You know what I mean? Like you guys are like, if anything, you're arrested right now. You know what I mean? Or whatever. Like you know. You know what I mean? Because like whatever, like those, maybe they got their own security force. They're upset at the military for just kind of, I mean, it's a huge failure on that end, right? But they spin it when they call back to the home planet, to Earth or whatever. They say, listen, not only did we find one planet, like, because they went out there to find the one planet. They're like, not only did we find one planet, we found two. We gathered genetic stuff and the materials and all these samples from 2 planets. So people on Earth are like, holy shit. You know, I mean, they might have got the news like a year later, right? Because of how, like I said, I don't know how long would it take. Maybe it would be faster. I don't know, like, you know. But when they do get the news, they're happy about this. They don't know that everybody was decimated. They don't know about all that. You know what I mean? They're just like, oh my God, they went to, like, not only did they went to one, like they did like 200% of the mission. They went to 2 places. They don't really know the whole side of it, of like the awful nature of all that stuff that happened.
What really happened.
Like what really happened, you know? Like only people like let's say it could be, you know how the hero, like Donovan's hero, the main hero of like the past of our story, Albatross Junction, the hero that was like, his real name is Lori, but he has like another name. That hero back in the day, like he knew something was up about this, because like he's the one that kind of got the samples and stuff like that. He was smart as could be. Like he got some clues from the wreckage and stuff when the wreckage was still visible and above, like it wasn't all ice covered and stuff for a number of months. They could do a lot of.
These samples been sitting in the circadian for like 100 years, and Donovan just harvested them.
No, it's like that hero guy, Lori, who's like, he has like, what is it? Odeon?
Yeah, Odeon.
Like one of the main things that he did, but like he wasn't really super like known for this, because like nothing really came of this until Donovan came along. But he got most of those samples out of before the ship got encrusted back over. So like Donovan's whole like life quest, like before our story started, was like, a part of it was like he wanted to find, like he wanted to gather that stuff that Odeon left, kept. Weirdly enough, that stuff was on Albatross.
So this dude really isn't like a mythical guy. He's like we're making him a real life, like he's tangible now.
Yeah, like he's like a lot of people, you know, like the way that
Roosevelt.
Yeah, like the way everything kind of shifted in this negative sense over the past, like whatever it was, 100, so however many years. Yeah, like he seems to a lot of people like wasn't real, like, you know what I mean, like all this stuff. But he was literally just like a war, like general type leader dude who outsmarted his enemies a lot of the time. That's like what he's kind of known for. Like one of the like famous stories that we have from his history is that like he used this stuff from the circadian, like for, you know, Donovan's like ahead of Odeon as far as like his technological science know-how. Donovan has done more with the samples, but Odeon did do certain things. Like he had a certain grasp of the alien tech.
Yeah.
And one of the things he did was he, like food was scarce and stuff like that for like hundreds of years, kind of, as the earth froze over and remained frozen. There was like, it was deadly, right? Like until like Donovan came along and actually like supplanted like all the dead stuff with like living alien stuff that was a hybrid of like worldly plants and vegetation, but also mixed with this alien stuff, so this alien genetics, so it could grow in the ice, so it could like, grow in the super like 180 below. It was like fine with it, very resilient, just like everything else on these planets, like very resilient. They could kind of like, they're like tough as could be. The stuff that was growing on those planets, so that like intermingled with our stuff allowed like food to be grown like in mass. But Donovan kind of like got that idea from like Odeon stories, where like Odeon, he knew that food was like really, really scarce and stuff like that. So what he did was like when people would come around, like he was kind of like peaceful, like he didn't like go out and like look for trouble and like try to fight battles and stuff like that. But when people would come to his village, you could say his city, he would have to defend it, but he would like try to outsmart. So when he knew that, like, let's say this army was coming, it'd be here in like 7 days, whatever it was going to be, he set up like a food source out there, or like took an existing food source that like he kind of realized like, okay, where's the most likely place that this army is going to encamp before they're going to like move in. And he pinpointed that location. He's like, okay, well, what would they kind of like eat? Like, why would they stop here? They might stop here because there's like some kind of vegetation here. There's something here that they could eat. There's some like animal life or some kind of wildlife, or some kind of vegetation they could find here. Like there's these trees, or there's a something that's still living here, right? Mm-hmm. So he used like some of this alien genetic material that he seemingly like mastered like a small portion of it, and he used it as like effectively like a bioweapon against the encampment. So the encampment would come in, they like eat whatever this fruit was off of this like weird tree, but they were like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. But it really was like an alien covenant or something, where it's like a biohazard to come in contact with that stuff. So like it would wipe out like 50% of the invading force like overnight, and then the rest of the people are like, let's just get out of here. Like, what just happened?
Confusion. Hell yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
So I feel like Donovan, took all those years later, Donovan took that knowledge and not only seeked out the like where that genetic material was at, because he knew that it had to be like somewhere like frozen somewhere. I mean, everything's frozen on the world, but the stuff on the circadian, if there was anything left on there, would be too far gone as far as like under ice, under too many layers, like we couldn't get to it. So he basically relied on this, like you said, like a legend. He thought like maybe through this legend, like Odeon had some stores of material. So he decided to like kind of backtrack and figure out like where could this be. And like one of the things that he thought to do was like, let me figure out like where the last place like Odeon was, like before the stories ended, before we lost track of what happened. Odeon was like the first one to figure out about the like errant satellites like leading from like, let's say, Albatross Junction being like southernmost point to like some kind of northernmost point, that every whatever you had said, like 67 years or 87 years, like maybe he was part of the first one, like the first realized one. He like did the calculations. He's like, wait a second, if we like, let's say he was in a northern hemisphere and he figured out that it might be better off to go to the southern hemisphere, but how do we do it? We really can't walk. We can't, there are these errant satellites out there, but how do we figure out where we could walk and when? And he kind of did the calculations of the ones that his scouts and different methods told him was still operational, and he realized that there would be this thing that occurred, and it was going to allow people from the north to actually walk at some kind of human pace to the south, which he called Albatross Junction.
Okay.
And that just perpetuated. This might be the third one coming up.
Satellites line up to melt the path.
You froze up for a second. I heard.
Is that what you're referring to? Are you talking about when the satellites line up and melt the path that people can walk around?
Yeah, people can actually go from let's say the northern, somewhere north, to
You want to call that Laurie's path?
Yeah, let's say it could be called that, and the place it leads to,
the
Albatross Junction. Yeah, the southern place. There's a northern place.
Let's go.
Was where they came from, or where they could go. Where Bomag, I think, is walking toward Albatross, but you could, let's say, walk the other way too at some point. I think we'd have to figure that out, but
okay. So
it might only be from north to south though, because that would only be the calculation that he would care to make.
So Bomag's walk that we kind of drew way back when, you think that's taken on when the satellites are lined up?
Yeah.
That's dope.
He just so happens into it in a sense. Well, actually, no, that kind of drawing I thought was the drawing in our little corner pick here is what I think is Bomag coming out of the circadian.
Yeah, but
that's what I think that is.
It makes sense if it's the 67th year, you know what I'm saying?
If it's that time as well.
It's light outside. He should be walking in the dark if.
That's true. Yes. All right. So it's both. It's him walking from the circadian, and it's him in the path.
Because that makes sense why he would end up there, because he's just following a path that will take him there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If I came to and all I see is a light path, I'm gonna follow that shit too.
Yeah, especially in a total darkness.
Hell yeah.
He has a long journey ahead of him. He meets up with a lot of different groups, and that's how he gets his army eventually, where he meets up with the triumvirate. But I'm not exactly sure, if there's this one point where we meet up with him on the path, and I think he deviates from that walk at a lot of points to do other things. But where we first meet up with him and he is on that path, he displays to other human beings that are walking on that path what he can do. If you remember, how he could kill with impunity. He could do all that because he has a different, I kind of was thinking about it a lot the other day, that the way that I have the timeline going, there was the nanotech when he was, back in the day, a couple hundred years before, when he was one of the first group to get the nanotech, but he had first of all, he had a special military version of that nanotech, so it wasn't the same goofy, every person got a goofy version where there was ads in it and there was a lot of goofy stuff to it, but a lot of the military people got a different version of it. It didn't have the ads that the other, and it did certain other things. All right, well, we could wrap this up. Check out albatrossjunction.com. Also follow us on Instagram at albatross_junction. See the link below for the IndieGogo pre-launch campaign, and if you sign up early, you'll have access to one of 4 posters and 2 special trading cards at the time when we actually launch the book, which is coming in October. And yeah, Kevin, you got anything else to say?
Got nothing to add there, sir.
All right, well, follow us every Wednesday right here on Comic Book Creation Live, where it is New Comic Book Day, and we welcome your comments and everything you want to tell us live or either after the show is over in the comments on any of our videos. We take into account stuff about the story, stuff about the comic book Albatross Junction itself, and your ideas can make it into a future issue of Albatross Junction. So subscribe to Comic Book Creation Live to get all the notifications for when we do our live show every Wednesday, 10 p.m. Eastern.